Every empire swears its money is safe. Every government insists its promises will last forever. And every time, history proves them wrong. From Rome to modern Lebanon, people have woken up to find their savings worthless, their salaries meaningless, and their futures stolen by systems they thought were solid. Collapse isn't rare. Collapse is the rule. The real question, ISNT, whether financial systems fail it, is how you'll protect yourself when they do. The illusion of permanence is the most dangerous financial mistake of all. We look at our bank balances and assume they are bedrock. But money is not bedrock. It is trust. And trust can vanish overnight. Every collapse leaves behind a trail of lessons about what actually protects wealth and what evaporates into dust. And if you pay attention, you'll see the survivors weren't the ones who trusted most. They were the ones who doubted first. Take the Byzantine Empire. At the heart of its economy was the gold solidus, coin, so reliable it was the medieval world's global reserve currency. You'd think they would have learned from Rome's earlier disaster with the silver denarius, when emperors kept debasing it until it was basically tin. But no, centuries later, the Byzantines made the same mistake. They began shaving its purity, mixing in cheaper alloys. Trusts cracked, and the coin became political fiction, what servib, not paper promises. Merchants, who had quietly hoarded real gold or land outside imperial reach, preserved wealth. That's the first timeless lesson. Governments cannot resist the temptation to dilute their money, and when they do, real value flees to assets they cannot counterfeit. But collapse isn't just about tinkering with coins. In the mid-14th century, the Black Death wiped out as many as half of all Europeans. And yet, the economic story is more complex than simple catastrophe. When half the labor force disappears, labor becomes precious. Survivors could demand higher wages. Land that once cost a fortune could be bought for a fraction. Families with liquidity, silver, goods, or just the ability to work suddenly had leverage they'd never dreamed of. If that sounds uncomfortably familiar, it should. During the COVID pandemic, we saw a modern version. Governments printing trillions, and a wave of inequality as those with liquidity bought assets, while those living paycheck to paycheck slipped behind. The rhyme is clear. Pandemics redistribute wealth. Crises reward those with reserves and punish those without them. And while pandemics show us how fast shocks can flip an economy, the collapse of banking in Renaissance Florence shows us that institutions that look too big to fail can fall like dominoes. In the 1340s, Florence was Europe's financial capital, but powerful banking families, like the Bardi and Peruzzi, had lent heavily to King's Most, disastrously to Edward III of England, who defaulted. When Edward stopped paying, the banks collapsed. Depositors were ruined. The lesson, too big to fail, is a lie as old as finance itself. The American Civil War was also a brutal financial war. The Union and the Confederacy both discovered that war on that scale required printing money. In the North, greenbacks flooded the economy, and inflation eroded their value. In the South, it was even worse. The Confederacy printed graybacks in staggering quantities. By the end of the war, Confederate currency was dead. What mattered was not paper promises, but hard assets. Land, food, gold, anything. Real held value while money became a cruel joke. France, too, offers a brutal case study. In the 1790s, revolutionaries issued a new paper currency. The government printed them with abandon, and they soon became worthless. Farmers refused to sell food for paper. The winners were the ones who held food, gold, or property things the government couldn't print. Fast forward to 1997. The Asian financial crisis began when the Thai baht collapsed. Debts in foreign currency became unpayable overnight. Investors fled, and currencies across Southeast Asia fell in a chain reaction. The people who suffered most were ordinary citizens whose savings lost value. The lesson echoes every collapse from Byzantium to Argentina. Debt in someone else's money is a death trap. The most chilling part is that collapse isn't just history. It's happening now. In Lebanon, between 2019 and 2021, the banks locked the doors. Citizens woke up to find their deposits frozen and their currency collapsing. The Lebanese pound lost over 90% of its value. The lesson was brutal. Your money in the bank is a loan you've made to an institution that can decide not to pay you back. So how do you protect yourself? History shows there is no single answer. In Byzantium, it was gold. After the Black Death, it was liquidity. In the Confederacy, it was hard goods. In Lebanon, it was getting out of the banks before they closed. The theme is constant. Survival comes from recognizing what holds real value when illusions collapse. And here is the paradox. Collapse is both a tragedy and an opportunity. For the unprepared, it is ruined. But for those with resilience, liquidity, or assets that cannot be printed away, it is the moment to acquire wealth at a fraction of its former cost. But wealth isn't only what you own, it is also what you can do. The survivors of history were also those who could create value. The baker who could provide bread, the craftsman who could repair tools, the farmer who could feed a community. These people didn't just survive collapses, they rose in them. In every crisis, money loses meaning, but production never does. That's the deeper protection. Not blind faith in institutions, but the combination of real assets, real skills, and the awareness that illusions always collapse. Every crisis is a transfer, from the many who trusted to the few who prepared. History has shown this pattern again and again. So the question is not whether everything falls apart. It always does. The question is whether you will be one of the many left holding promises or one of the few holding something real. History doesn't repeat, but if you ignore it, it will crush you all the same. If this gave you a new perspective, hit subscribe. History has the answers. I'll show you where to look.